I need you to watch this scene.
僕にないものをたくさん持っていた君はオールマイトよりも見つけなすごい人だったんだ。君がすごいと思っていたから、だからずっと君を追いかけていたんだ。
Bakugo and Deku, two of the most inseparable names in modern shonen. From best friends to bullies and the one being bullied, to insane rivals, all the way back to being best friends. The Deku and Bakugo story is definitely one for the ages. But that would end with the recent events in the My Hero Academia manga, where Bakugo's story would end with his untimely death by the hands of Shigaraki. And all that's left to really witness is Deku's inevitable reaction to Bakugo's death. So let's talk about it. Hey, Wise. So with the recent chapters of My Hero Academia, there has been a lot of questions. And the most prevalent question that has come from this chapter, likely due to the disbelief of everyone in the My Hero Academia community, is whether Bakugo is actually dead. And I'm sorry to inform you, but with the official translations to this chapter, it's sad to say, but Bakugo is actually dead, or at least he knows himself to be dead. In his fight against Shigaraki, he had zero chance of survival in the slightest, getting completely overwhelmed and destroyed in every way imaginable. So when he stood up and effectively told Best Genius to look after the others, that was the first major red flag that he is about to die. But I'm not gonna lie, as if what happened next didn't give me a sense of optimism that he would actually survive. Because in awakening or evolving his quirk, this newfound power of his was so powerful, for lack of a better term, that he was quite literally able to speed blitz Shigaraki. The same Shigaraki who just a second ago, and for like the 10th time in this battle, reminded everyone that he is in fact prime All Might level. So when Bakugo effortlessly blitzing Shigaraki and then successfully predicting Shigaraki's next move, I was a bit optimistic that something would potentially happen that would prevent him from his inevitable fate. However, with this newfound power that Bakugo has awakened, it sparked something inside of All for Shigaraki, somehow reminding him of the second One for All user, which immediately gave him incentive to try to kill Bakugo immediately. But before Bakugo gets struck, we see what seems to be Bakugo's confirmation that he is indeed dead, as he's somehow talking to the Vestige of All Might, where he would mention that while he was young, he was pretty much a punk his entire life, and that blinded him for the thing that he truly wanted, which was an autograph from All Might. But for me, it's the words that he said that pretty much confirms that he is dead, because saying, "Man, I wanted an autograph so bad," implies that Bakugo never will have the opportunity to get that autograph. And more importantly, it implies that this version of Bakugo inside of this vestige, if you will, of his mind, understands and has accepted that he is dead or is about to die. All of that leads up to the initial piercing and explosion of his heart that was given to him by Shigaraki punching straight through. Getting completely annihilated by that punch, Bakugo is seen clearly with a gaping hole in the center of his chest. So not only did Bakugo imply that he was going to sacrifice himself, not only did All for Shigaraki declare that he wants to kill him out of the PTSD that an awakened Bakugo brought to him, and not only with Bakugo in his consciousness accepting the fact that he is going to die whilst never being able to get an autograph from All Might, but to clearly see a gaping hole in his chest with the All Might card that will never get signed by All Might, pretty much confirms that Bakugo is effectively gone. But now comes the best and the worst part for the story of My Hero Academia, which is Deku coming to the scene and seeing Bakugo dead. It'd be the best thing for My Hero Academia because we get to see a berserk and enraged Deku fight for his dead comrade, but the worst thing for My Hero Academia because the likelihood of Deku surviving a fight against Shigaraki, even in a berserk form, is slim to none. Because we have to remember that Bakugo's death wasn't because Shigaraki was fighting other people and he just ended up attacking Bakugo and killing him, but All for Shigaraki specifically targeted Bakugo for the sole purpose of Deku seeing Bakugo's dead corpse, which would trigger him to go berserk, getting All for Shigaraki a great opportunity to take advantage of a berserk Deku, steal One for All, and kill Deku. So with All for Shigaraki actually succeeding in the plan that he specifically laid out to us, Deku going berserk after seeing a dead Bakugo would not be anything positive for us, the viewers of My Hero Academia. Which is why I actually think that Deku won't go berserk. What seems to be true about One for All and All for One is that the person or people with the strongest will along with the strongest power will prevail, which is the reason 75% All for Shigaraki was incapable of taking One for All during the Pearl Liberation War arc. Even though Shigaraki had strong will, it wasn't stronger than the collective will inside of One for All. But in cultivating 100% of All for One inside of Shigaraki, that gives All for One a significantly higher edge to taking One for All. But now all for Shigaraki needs is an opening to get to One for All. And a way to guarantee he succeeds in taking One for All is by manipulating the will of Deku, causing him to feel weakness. So if Deku arrives at the scene, sees Bakugo's dead corpse, and immediately goes berserk, there's a 99% chance that All for Shigaraki will take One for All. Because most likely, Deku isn't going to be going berserk just with pure anger at All for Shigaraki. And he, in fact, will blame himself a lot for why Bakugo died. Especially when the entire plan to take down All for Shigaraki was centered around him being present with his team of Bakugo, Best Jeanist, Mirko, Edgeshot, Nejire, Tamaki, and eventually Mirio, and the only reason why he wasn't there was because he got pulled into another portal, and even though he escaped, he wasn't fast enough to get to the U8 coffin. So in that scenario, it seems like All for Shigaraki has the significant advantage to taking One for All. But there's also another scenario that I mentioned earlier that could potentially mitigate that entire process. What if Deku doesn't go berserk? I can imagine that Deku will easily feel pain inside of his heart for what happened to Bakugo. But the difference in this scenario is that Deku will see that Bakugo gave everything he had while fighting against Shigaraki. And in understanding that Bakugo did give 100% of himself to take down All for Shigaraki, which unfortunately led to his untimely death, instead of Deku feeling weak about how he wasn't able to save Bakugo and immediately gets angry at All for Shigaraki for killing him, instead he would acknowledge Bakugo's strengths, which would effectively end the storyline of Bakugo the best way possible. Because the last question that Bakugo thought to himself was asking Deku if he can actually catch up. And the scene that I asked you to watch in the beginning of this video kind of represents why this is important.
僕にないものをたくさん持っていた君はオールマイトよりも未知なすごい人だったんだ。君がすごいと思っていたから、だからずっと君を
Deku acknowledging Bakugo would do so much for the story of My Hero Academia, but that still doesn't mean that he wouldn't be susceptible to All for Shigaraki's plans. Because one thing that we all can agree with is that even if Deku does start his altercation with All for Shigaraki in a very calm manner, All for Shigaraki talks more crap than anybody in the history of the world, where it is nearly guaranteed that he will talk so much trash about Bakugo and his death that could eventually lead to Deku going crazy. But at that time, in fighting All for Shigaraki for a couple of minutes and getting some form of a game plan, that version of an enraged and berserk Deku could lead to him awakening and using the second One for All users quirk, which I am 100% certain will be one of the highlights of all of My Hero Academia. But that is going to be another video. But let me know your thoughts on Deku's reactions to Bakugo's tragic death.